Assalamu alaikum. This is Mubarakah, Fit Muslima, and I am coming to you live this morning. If you can't hear me, tap on your screen. Just tap on your screen. I have a few questions that people messaged me, so I am going to get into, let me look at my message box over here. First I want to do that, and then I want to look at my message box. Okay, so I had someone to ask. So this morning I'm doing questions and answers. So if you have any questions about fitness or nutrition, then feel free to post them inside of the comment. Give this lots of thumbs ups and share it on your wall if you'd like to do that, to share, because sharing is caring. So I am coming to you live at 11 a.m. from Eastern Standard Time, and we are getting ready to talk fitness and nutrition. We're getting ready to talk about what people want to know. So one of the first questions that I got inside of my box was, how do I get rid of a muffin top? This is probably the most often asked question ever. And it is the most often marketed question ever. How do we reduce the size of our abdominals? And muffin tops is kind of like the side of your abs. People call it a muffin top because when women put on jeans that are fitting, then it kind of like rolls over like a muffin. So that is why it's called a muffin top. So I have good news and I have bad news. So the good news is it is certainly possible. The bad news is that it is not as easy or as straightforward as many people think, which is you can do crunches all day long. You can plank for an hour if you can, and that is not what gets rid of muffin top. So muffin top, or any abdominal additional fat, is like fat on the rest of your body, that it is where your body is storing energy. And unfortunately, we cannot spot reduce. I can't say this enough, because even in my own family, I'm constantly saying this. And the last time I saw my sister, she's like, oh, how do I shrink my stomach? I'm like, how many times have I told you, you cannot just shrink your stomach? It doesn't work like that. So here is the thing. In order for you to get rid of the additional fat on your abdominals, you really have to work your entire body. And here's why. Because when your body goes to use stored fat as energy, so you're working out, 5 days a week, you're eating right, and you're in a calorie deficit, and you're eating whole foods, and your body is going to use your additional fat, right? Your adipose tissue is what we call it, in order for it to produce energy. Well, where your body gets that from is dependent on your genetics. So sometimes people have a genetic tendency of having a small waist, but they may have bigger hips and butt, right? And sometimes people have a genetic tendency of keeping a firm lower body, but they get more fat around their abdominal. So that's all depending on your genetics. But here's the thing. When your body goes to use energy, so even if you're doing squats and you're doing leg exercise, your body will go to any place it can get fat from in order to give you the energy to do those squats. So the conversation that happens in your body is, okay, we need energy in order to do these squats. We don't have it immediately available from food. That's fine. Let's go get some stored energy, which is our fat, our stored energy, and so that we can have energy to do these squats. Some people have the genetic tendency, your body may go get that stored energy from your arms. So yes, doing squats can actually help you burn fat everywhere on your body. The same thing with every exercise. Just because you are doing push-ups doesn't mean the only place you're burning fat is in your upper body. The important thing to remember is that there is a difference between burning fat, right, and building muscle. So let's dispel one myth. Fat and muscle are two different substances. When you lose weight, you do not convert fat into muscle, right? It's physiologically impossible. So anytime someone says, I'm converting fat into muscle, no, you're not. You have to remind them that they're two different substances. You can't convert fat into muscle, and you can't convert muscle into fat. It does not work that way, right? So they're two different substances. You can reduce your fat and build your muscle, or vice versa, get more fat and less muscle. So both of those things are two different substances. So you can't spot reduce fat, but you can spot build muscle. So there's a difference there. I need you to like really think about this for a second, right? And I'm looking at my questions because I want to remember to answer those when I'm done, right? When I'm done with this question. So you can't spot reduce fat, but you can spot tone muscle. What does that mean? That means that if you don't have what you consider enough muscle tone in your arms, of course doing arm exercise is going to build the muscles in your arm. But it won't just reduce the fat in your arm. Your body will get fat as energy from everywhere. So the difference is that fat is stored energy. Muscle is what gives you strength, right? We don't want our body to tap into muscle as stored energy, and it doesn't do that in a very efficient way anyway. So I want you to remember that. So when it comes to you reducing your muffin top, what I would suggest as a means of exercise is that you do strength training. The reason why I suggest strength training, and this is if you have, say you have less than 30 pounds to lose, right? And you want to reshape your body. For women in particular, strength training can be amazing at doing that. Lifting weights, doing body weight exercise, because what happens is as your muscles build in different parts of your body, it will literally reshape the way that your body is formed. Like you would literally, you can literally change where things, not where things are. How do I say this? You can literally change the dimensions of different parts of your body. There is certainly a such thing as muscle sculpting. So that was a long answer to a short question. And the short answer is work out your entire body. Just have a really good full body routine, and that's going to reduce the fat. And if you want to reshape, so say that you don't have a lot of weight to lose and you just want to reshape where things are, you want one part to look more full, you want one part to look thinner, I would say do a full body strength training routine and make that a regular part of your workout. So that is for that. Earlier, one of the first questions that I got was, where do I get my sports hijabs? So I have tried several different types of sports hijabs, and I have to say the most convenient is called a ninja hijab. Now, it isn't made from a special material that wicks material away from you, but I find it's really thin and it's really easy to put on. And you can Google it. I think I got mine from like Amazon or something. So I do two things. One, I like putting on a bandana over my sports hijab. You probably saw in the video the other day, it was pink camouflage bandana. So it's literally a bandana that I put over my what I use as a sports hijab. And I actually even use that when I don't have one available or they're not clean, right? And I maybe or maybe it's warm that day and I want to use a thinner scarf, I just wrap it around and I put the bandana on. Bandanas are like the best thing. They keep your hijab in place like no matter what you do. When I teach boot camp, I wear a bandana because it keeps the hijab in place. And not under, because sometimes I wear a scarf. Well, you'll see that I always wear my scarf under. I just like the 2-scarf thing, right? That's just my look, right? So not under, but on top of the hijab. You just take it's a square, you just fold it like a triangle and you tie it on and tie it in the back. So that is what I do for sports hijab. I personally have not found a more convenient one, or one that just works that much better than just doing that. So if anybody has a suggestion, or if you have a sports hijab you want me to try, I'm always willing to do a review. Drinking ginger helps reduce fat. Not really. So there are a lot of claims of a lot of supplements that will say that it helps reduce fat. There has been very little scientific evidence for most supplements, including herbs. So ginger is really good for digestion, and I am a huge proponent of herbs. Like I've used them for probably 25 years or longer. I actually used to make my own herbal concoctions. We grow them in our garden. But you know me, I am a huge advocate of what does the science say, what does the research say. So when we look at whether or not something helps reduce fat, we look at two things. One, does it cause any additional mobilization of using adipose tissue? Does it cause any additional mobilization of using stored fat, right? And how do they normally do these research studies? So the way that they do these research studies is they may take, so for example, they may take two groups. One group, have them drink regular tea and follow their regular diet for 6 weeks. And then the other group, have them drink ginger tea and follow their regular diet for 6 weeks. And then they weigh them and see if there was any general difference in the amount of weight that they lost or gained. So that's the way you would do a study. But the important thing is that when you do these studies, that they don't change anything else about the groups, right? They don't have the group to do ginger to do additional exercise or stuff like that. So when you see on a package, so this is a way, and I'm also an advocate of us taking back what we know for science and nutrition, and really not letting the marketing companies and the companies that sell us false science. And that's really important, because a lot of time people really do waste their money. So anytime that you see a package of, I don't care if it's a tea or if it's a pill or whatever it is, and it says this will help you burn fat when you follow a regular exercise and a reasonable diet. Well, if you follow regular exercise and a reasonable diet, anything that you eat will will make the scale go down, because it's the diet and the exercise is what's working, not necessarily what's inside that pill. So when we say something burns fat, it has to burn fat itself without you doing extra diet and exercise, right? So we know that the only thing that we know scientifically that actually helps do that is caffeine. That's one of the reasons why most diet supplements, when you look at it, it will have caffeine in it. So caffeine actually has been shown to mobilize adipose tissue. That doesn't mean that you should, because it has side effects if you have too much of it, so it doesn't mean that you should just become an avid coffee drinker or you should get caffeine pills. But that's actually one of the very few supplements that have been shown to actually increase your fat. Now, there is some preliminary evidence that shows that cayenne pepper and hot things actually speeds your metabolism up, right? So when we talk about speeding the metabolism, and this is preliminary evidence, so it's not like, you eat cayenne pepper every day that you're going to lose 500 pounds, right? It doesn't work that way. The best form of weight loss is not to depend on any particular supplement or any particular external device. Really, there's really no way around it, people. You have to exercise and eat well. That's really, everything else is really pipe dreams. So that was one thing. So Kamara said, what should be done more, cardio or strength? So it depends on what your goals are. I'm a really huge advocate of goal-specific workouts. What does that mean? That means that for everybody, the difference of what you want to do, what you want to achieve, depends on what you should focus on. So, for example, for someone who is not concerned about losing weight and they want to just tone up, then doing more strength training as opposed to cardio is probably the best way for them to go. For someone who's practicing for a marathon, then obviously they should do more cardio than strength training. But all routines should have some combination of both of them, but how much you do and what you do really depends on what your specific goal is. So I'm going to say with that question, it is, there's no cut and dry answer to it. Alhamdulillah, thank you for the compliments. What are the major fat burning exercises? Like squats or deadlift? What are the major fat burning exercises? So, let's not call them fat burning exercises, right? Because ultimately, anything that you do that uses your stored energy is a fat burning exercise. They have shown that there are exercises that burn more calories than other exercise, and the best ones for you to do to burn the maximum amount of calories in the minimum amount of time really is multi-muscle movements. So it's actually not squats or deadlifts. Multi-muscle movements are movements that use multiple muscles throughout the repetition. So everybody's favorite exercise to hate, burpees, have actually been shown to be one of the best fat burning exercises. They have 5 exercises that's considered kind of like the 5 most metabolically expensive exercises, which means your body uses much more energy in order to do them, and one of those is burpees. Another one is something that's called dead man slide, I think it's called. So it's kind of like you get in a plank form and you use your arms to walk forward and you drag your legs behind you. That actually burns a whole lot of exercise. So the answer to that question is multi-muscle movements. So anything that is only working one muscle, such as deadlifts work a couple of muscles, but they're all in the same area. It works your glutes, your hamstring, and your lower back, but it's still kind of like all in the same area. You will get much more burn for your buck if, for example, you combine it and say you do a deadlift with a row. What that would look like for people who are familiar with strength training, you would bend over, you would row your arms back, you would put them down, and then you would stand up. So now you're using upper body, back exercise, back muscles, and your leg muscles. So Idle said, are beans carbs? So the answer to, I want to make sure that I like all of these questions that I'm answering so I will know that I answered them. So are beans carbs? Beans have carbohydrates in them. So let us clarify that nothing is technically a carb. A carb is not a type of food. It is a macronutrient that's in our foods. So for example, broccoli is a vegetable, but it has carbohydrates in it, just as bread has carbohydrates in it, and beans have carbohydrates in it. But beans also have protein. So we can't say bean is a carb or protein, but it has carbohydrates in it and it has protein in it. So carbs, like protein, like fat, is a macronutrient, so it's not a food. Or when we talk about carbs as a food group, they're really talking about foods that have a higher percentage of carbs in them. So we don't consider a steak carbs, right? Because it actually has no carbohydrates in it. We consider bread a carbohydrate because it has a large portion of carbohydrates. That's like the main macronutrient in it. But we don't consider broccoli a carb. It's in the fruit and vegetable category, but it has carbohydrates in it. So that's important for us to do. How to improve muscle mass for skinny type body. Lifting weights. So there's a couple of things when people, so I don't get this question often, but hopefully this will be helpful in a time for me to address it. I talk about weight loss a lot, right? But what about people who want to gain weight, or people who want to gain muscle and not gain fat, right? So when you are what we call this type of person a hard gainer, that's what it's called, right? A hard gainer is a person who is naturally thin. They have a very hard time gaining weight. They have a very hard time putting on muscle. What you're doing is you are trying to manipulate your genetics when your goal is to put on muscle that your body does not naturally maintain, right? Or have more difficult time to maintain. Certainly possible. It's amazing the things that you can do with nutrition and exercise. You can literally, I don't care if you're too skinny, too fat, you can literally reshape your body. But you have to be just as specific as somebody who wants to lose weight. You have to make sure that you're having enough protein. One of the things that I think that people miss out on, or they don't connect, is that your body needs protein in order to build those muscles. So it's really hard for you to gain muscle even if you're working out, if you're still eating junk food, because, and I'm not saying for anybody in specific who answer the question, but this is something that I see really commonly, is that because a person does not put on fat really easily and they're naturally thin, then sometimes they will tend not to have the healthiest diet, because they can eat ice cream and their metabolism just burns it right off, or they can have pancakes and syrup every single morning and they're great. But you have to remember that if you're, again, goal specific, if your goal is to gain muscle, you need to increase the amount of protein that you're having so that you can be able to build that muscle after you're doing your strength training routine. So the best way for you to build muscle is to have a diet that is rich in protein, and do strength training in order for you to gain that muscle. So, sometimes I have an underactive thyroid. My metabolism is very sluggish. Do you have any tips on how I can speed my metabolism up? Yes, and it is actually a great follow-up to the previous question. Strength training, gain muscle. That is so hugely important. As you can see, like, I'm a huge strength training person. It literally changed my life when I discovered it. And then as I started learning more about it and the science behind it and how our bodies are put together and how they work with each other, it's the one thing that women tend to shy away from, but we need the most. So the reason why I say strength training and building muscle is because our metabolism is directly related to how much muscle we have. For every pound of muscle that you gain, you will increase your metabolism by 50 calories a day. The same thing is true for every pound of muscle you lose, you will decrease your metabolism by about 50 calories a day. So if you want to increase your metabolism, and when I say increase your metabolism, I'm talking about just the basic, it's called your basal metabolic rate, how much calories your body needs just to live and breathe. Even if you didn't move, if you decided to lay on the couch all day and watch TV, right? Our body needs a certain amount of calories to maintain. It takes much more energy for your body to maintain muscle than it does for it to maintain fat. So if you want to increase your metabolism, even if your thyroid is slow, Certainly if you have PCOS, if you have a hard time losing weight, if you feel like you walk by a donut and you gain 5 pounds, right? So the cure to that is getting more muscle. Do push-ups, do squats, do lunges, lift weights, and don't lift 5-pounders. Lift heavy weights. You need to build muscle. That is super important. Same thing, Mariam, about exercises to tone up. So when a woman uses the word tone up, I have a translator in my brain, and tone up translates into build muscle. That's the physiological response or physiological translation to tone up, is to build muscle. So when someone says tone up, that means build muscle. Does weight loss depend 80% on nutrition and only 20% on exercise? Weight loss versus health. So this is a one that we go back and forth on. So is it 80% nutrition and 20% health? I have to think, do I really agree with that? Can I say 50-50? I know it's really common for people to say it's 80-20, but weight loss is really 50-50. You can lose weight if you did 80% nutrition and 20% exercise, but I cannot express enough how important it is for you to move. You have to move. Like, even if you lose weight only on diet, you will live on that restrictive diet for the rest of your life, and you will gain the weight back super easy if you don't have a strong fitness program. So I'm going to say it's 50-50. I don't like the 80-20 thing. So that's just me personally in my experience. Tanveen, how to lose belly fat quick. There's no such thing as losing belly fat quick. When we're done, if you go back to the beginning of the video, I think my longest answer was about belly fat and how we lose it. Please tell home remedies for weight loss. Lunges, squats, push-ups, and eating a whole food diet. That is your home remedy for weight loss. And you can do it all from your home. That is my answer to that. That is for sure. You can do all that from your home. What can I do besides running to improve my cardio? You can do HIIT training. So HIIT training, it also increases your cardiovascular endurance. It's actually really, really good for that. You can also do swimming, biking, all of those are cardio. And so I would say do what you feel like you can be the most consistent with and what you enjoy, because you should enjoy working out. So if your question is what other things are cardio exercises, I would say running, biking, swimming are some of the really common cardio exercises, or getting on an elliptical at the gym. Those are all common cardio exercises. If you mean, is there exercises other than cardio exercises to improve your cardio? I would say yes, do HIIT training. Assalamu alaikum, Rosalina and her mom. How are you? I am glad you and your mom is tuning in. How much should your BMR be? So your BMR, for people who don't know what BMR is, your basal metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate is how many calories you burn just to maintain your body. So what you would burn if you just laid on the couch all day, right? And everybody's basal metabolic rate is different. There is no, it should be this much or it should be that much. Everyone is different, and your basal metabolic rate is depending on several things. It depends on the amount of muscle mass you have, the amount of fat you have, and your genetics are in there. So there is no specific number for basal metabolic rate. It is depending on each individual and their size. All of those things are a part of your basal metabolic rate. Faiza said, I'm having allergy problems, also skin allergies. So the first thing that I would suggest, so this is a health issue, not a weight loss issue, and that's absolutely fine. But the first thing I would suggest if you have allergy problems is, one, I would say, try to identify that allergy. One, if you go to an allergist and you haven't been able to identify it, and you want to look into what you're doing pertaining to your food and maybe something that you're eating could be causing it, I would say you need to start with an elimination diet. No, that's not true. You need to start with meticulously writing down every single thing that goes in your mouth. So you have to, in order to identify if it's something that you're eating that's causing this, and then you need to do an elimination diet. So you would eliminate like the 7 most common foods related to allergies, and you're going to eliminate them for about 30 days to 6 weeks, and then add them one at a time for a couple of weeks in order for you to try to identify what is it specifically that is breaking you out, and causing your allergy. So some of those foods are dairy, peanuts in particular, eggs, corn, gluten, soy, and there's one more. I'll think about it. I said nuts, right? I said nuts, yeah. So there's 7 of them. That was 6. Geez, what's the other one? Dairy. I'll have to think about it. I'm going to try to think about it before I'm done. There's a 7th one. How do you lose cheek fat and double chin? So, cheek fat is the same answer as and double chin. If it's from being overweight, then you just have to lose weight. There's no specific exercise to lose fat in a particular spot. You have to exercise and lose weight all over, and then everything will come down gradually all over your body. How do you maintain your commitment to a healthy daily routine? I can't keep up with it for a week. So one of the things that I would say is, one, to make sure that your routine is whatever you're trying to do is practical for you. One of the mistakes that people often make is they decide to do these life makeovers and they change 50 things at one time, and not many people can maintain that for a long time. You fall off the bandwagon. So what I would say, if your goal is long-term success, is that you start incorporating one thing at a time. Give yourself a year or so for you to get to where you want to be, where you consider yourself healthy. What are some of those habits that you want to have on a daily basis that you will consider yourself having a healthy routine? So if that means I want to be a person who eats green vegetables every single day. If that's one of them, then just focus on that for 2 weeks, for 30 days, and make sure you incorporate it into your life. And then if the second thing is, I want to be a person that runs every single day, or well, it's not healthy to run every single day, but say you want to run 4 days a week, then you add that to it. And it may start off with, you know what, as long as I get out of my house and I walk for 15 minutes, then come back, then I've done it. And then that 15 minutes will turn into 20, the 20 will turn into 30, the walk will turn into a run, and you gradually build up. So we have to really get into the mindset of start thinking long term. So that's what I would say. I would say, I don't know what a healthy daily routine is for you, but I would say if you're having a hard time keeping up with any commitment that you make with yourself when it comes to health and fitness, or when it really comes to anything, even when it comes to ibadah or things like that, it's about starting slow and building up. What are the best exercises for people with ankle or foot pain? I have chronic inflammation, which prevents me from doing a lot of walking, running, and pounding. So I would say a couple of things. One, you might want to find a pool and do some water aerobics or water exercises. So that would be actually ideal if you have a problem with pounding and foot issues. If that is not possible for you, I would say a bike is also something that does not cause pounding on your feet, so you might want to invest inside of an exercise bike, and also doing strength training in a way where you are doing it by sets and reps, and you're not necessarily like doing, you know, jump squats where you have to pound on your legs. So that is what I would suggest. So I'm breastfeeding and struggling to lose weight. I watch what I eat and I try to squat, lift, but really can't seem to shift more than a couple of pounds. Please advise. So I would say, so this was an issue for me when I don't know if you know my story, you know, when I had my first child, I gained a huge amount of weight, a lot of weight. That was actually my first experience in gaining weight and having to lose weight and having to do it while I was breastfeeding. So I would say a couple of things. One, you need to meticulously write down what you're eating. And in addition to that, so I recommend that anybody who wants to lose weight and keep it off actually do that. But in addition to that, you'd also need to keep track of the consistency of your breast milk. The beautiful thing about, you know, trying to adjust your diet and breastfeeding is that your breast and your baby will tell you immediately if you're not eating enough calories or if you're not eating the right things, right? Because the milk will turn really thin and almost watery, and the baby will start having to eat a whole, you know, whereas the baby may go say 6 hours or 4 hours without eating. If you find that, you know, for the last couple of days the baby wants to eat every 2 hours, that means that there's not enough calories, there's not enough nutrients inside of your breast milk, and you need to increase your calories. So I would do a couple of things. Once you find your set point of your calories, I would certainly increase your exercise, because when it comes to weight loss, it really is a balance of, are you giving yourself enough calorie deficit balanced with enough calorie burn in order to burn the stored fat? And so when you, and let's say your diet is perfect, right? You're in the calorie deficit, you can't go any further without jeopardizing your milk. Crank up the workout, because you can burn more calories if you are if you're working out. And also too, if you're doing the same thing for a long time, then your body gets used to it. You may just need to change the type of workout that you're doing. So that is what I would suggest in a nutshell. How do you do your workouts during Ramadan? I do them whenever I have the energy or the motivation to do them. So the last week, the first almost 10 days of Ramadan, I did not work out at all. I just didn't have the energy to do it. My body was adjusting. But alhamdulillah, after it adjusted, I tend to, for some reason, and I don't know, there's no secret to this, I just have a burst of energy after 5 o'clock, right? I don't know why, because that's like, I don't know. But that's just me personally. You know, there is a low in the day, probably, I don't know, maybe about 1 or 2 o'clock, I start losing energy. Sometimes I take a nap, sometimes I don't. And then about 5 o'clock, my energy, it just comes back. So I try to take advantage of that, and I do those workouts. But one of the things that, as I suggested, is I think I may have only done strength training maybe 2 or 3 times during Ramadan, because it's really difficult for me to fit it in after iftar. So I've just been trying to make my cardio, when I do cardio, really a work cardio. Like I try to make it as intense as I have the energy to do. So that's how I've been doing during Ramadan. I've been doing much more cardio than I normally do. And that's okay for me. I mean, I really do try to push it. So, for example, when I run, I try to run uphill. When I walk, I definitely find some uphill places to walk. So, and I give myself, instead of, outside of Ramadan, I may push myself to kind of like time my mile, but during Ramadan, one thing that I've been doing that's different is I will tell myself I'm going to walk or run for this length of time. So, or I will go for this length of time. I don't care if I'm doing a 20-minute mile because I'm walking and don't have all of the energy I would normally have, as long as I do it by time. And so I've been really trying to focus on working out by time instead of worrying about my intensity. So that's what I do. So inshallah, that'll be helpful. Alhamdulillah, we only have like 9 days left, so we can get back to our our full routine. So if a person wants to lose weight, he's reducing in fat percentage but increasing in muscle. Because of increased muscle mass, he is not seeing any changes in reducing weight. Let me think about that for a second. Fat percentage is going down. Muscle is coming up, but you're not seeing reducing in weight. So you mean the scale is not going down. So the question is, okay, I get it. So some people are not scale losers initially, which means I would say, one, don't give up, keep going, because the scale will eventually budge. It will. It's just physiological that your scale will eventually budge. The second thing that I would say is that maybe he needs to determine his weight loss success by more than just the scale. We get stuck on a scale number, right? But, you know, if you could fit inside of size 6 jeans, who cares what the scale says, right? For a woman. I don't know what that would be for a man. I guess like a 32 waist would be for a man. And so you should determine. So when I judge my clients, whether or not they hit a plateau, we use 3 measurements. We use weight on the scale. We use tape measure, like inches, right? And we use body fat percentage. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm on a plateau because the scale has not moved anywhere, but they're losing inches and they're losing body fat. And those things are just as important, even more important to me than that means you are not at a plateau. That means your body is changing. It is seeing results. You're just not seeing a number change on the scale. And weight loss is much more than just the number on the scale. Worried about my skin itching, rashes. What should I do? Itching and rashes. So again, I think that you have to identify kind of like those foods that whether or not it's causing you to break out, and really try to use shea butter, and of course go see. I didn't say go see a dermatologist, but that goes without saying. You always want to, double check with your doctor if you are, if you're really concerned. And I would say see a dermatologist and see if they have something that, because you seem to be on a timeline, and Mabruk, you're getting married in 2 months, alhamdulillah. So I would say certainly, see what your dermatologist can do to help offering. But if you're just breaking out randomly and you don't know what it is, I would certainly look at the food that you're eating. All of those is, so I'm going to check my box to see if I have any more questions. Where's my box? I'm going to check my box. Oh, I had a question on my page that said, how do you increase upper body strength? Push-ups, push-ups, push-ups. And just do them. Start off from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. And what I love about push-ups is that it literally uses every major upper body muscle that you have. Push-ups work your back, your chest, your shoulders, your biceps, and your triceps all in one movement. Remember earlier when we talked what was the best exercises to lose weight and what a multi-muscle movement is? Push-up is an ideal example of a multi-muscle movement. It will work every single upper body muscle that you have. And so that is really what I would suggest. I am trying to see. I had another question in my box, and I'm going to try to access it. And let me know if you have any additional questions. We answered a lot of questions today, didn't we? We went through a lot of stuff. Okay, I answered that. And I answered, oh, wait a minute. And I answered that. You know what? I am so happy I'm so happy that so many people have been messaging me and posting on their wall that the casein protein is really helpful. And I do want, a couple of people messaged me about this, and so I do want to talk about this for just a second with the casein protein. So if you scroll in the videos, you'll see I did a video about pre-Ramadan and what we can do in Ramadan in order to maintain energy, to not feel as hungry during the day. And one of the things that I recommended is that people have casein protein during Ramadan. And so someone talked, well, actually I think it was like three people sent me messages and just links to the China study and how he vilifies casein protein. So there is some problems with the China study. I know that it is a very popular study, but there are problems with some of the research and the statistics that he does in that study. So one of the things about casein protein and the way that that research was done is that the way the research was done on the animals was as if that you ate nothing but meat. So the research that the supposed findings was that casein protein is like the source of all cancer, right? Absolutely not true, right? So the way that the research for that particular study to come up with this conclusion was done, and it was given to the mice, it will be the equivalent of if a person ate nothing but meat their entire lives, right? If you eat nothing, you didn't have a vegetable, you didn't have rice, you didn't have potatoes, you didn't have anything, you ate nothing but meat. People don't eat that way, all right? So just like anything, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. So I think that it's a very misleading study, and it's very misleading to people to make them think that, because if that was true, then casein is in milk, and that means that everybody would have cancer by now, right? It would be much more at a higher rate because casein protein is in milk. So if casein caused you to have cancer, then if you ate any dairy, you would have cancer right now. So that is really not a very reliable study. It's the only one that has actually been shown that. So I still recommend casein protein, and it is really, really helpful. So one of the reasons why it's so helpful, and I mentioned earlier, was that it actually takes your body 12 hours to break it down, which means your body is metabolizing it for 12 hours. You are full, or you're not hungry, or not full, but you're not hungry for 12 hours. It takes that long for your body to metabolize casein protein. So it is like, alhamdulillah, when you're fasting. Every morning that I have casein protein, some mornings I don't because I woke up late. Woke up really late, like 5 minutes. But the mornings that I have, like, it makes a huge difference when it comes to you being hungry through the day. So if you haven't gotten your casein protein, I would suggest that you go to your nearest supplement store or go online and certainly get it and enjoy it for the next 8 days. 8 days, yes. Okay, I think our time is done, and I'm going to leave with a couple of things. One, I thought my registration would be up for an event coming up, but it's not up yet. I want you to come to Connecticut on July 16th. July 16th, a full day of fitness and nutrition seminar with me. We have alhamdulillah, a halal food sponsor, so the event will include your food, and it is going to be a full day of you actually getting all of the information about nutrition, about fitness, about flexibility, about incorporating it into an Islamic lifestyle, all of that for a full day on July the 16th. So Saturday, July 16th. I want you just to hold the date for me. And then inshallah, hopefully in the next day or two, I will make the full official announcement and tickets will be live. So if you want to come on up or down or wherever you are, inshallah, it is a series that I'm doing called Fit is the Sunnah, because we are making a fit Muslimah revolution, right? We want health and fitness to be just as common as going to the masjid, taking your kids to the masjid for Sunday class, right? So inshallah, I hope that you would join me July the 16th. Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. All right? So inshallah, that is it for me for today. And I invite you to tune in to Mornings with Mubarakah Radio on Wednesday at 9 a.m. And I will have the link on this page as well. And if you have any additional questions, why don't you just post them below the video. And next Monday when we come live, I will, if I don't get to them throughout the week, then next Monday when we're live, inshallah, I will try to answer them then. All right? So talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum.